The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas denounced the Israelis trying to violate the ceasefire agreement with multiple attacks in the Gaza Strip. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian met Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow to sign a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement between the two countries. And heavy rains in the southern Brazilian state of Santa Catarina have caused the closure of major roads, flooding in several cities, and landslides. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. Now we will be with the news. Stay with us. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas denounced that Israel is trying to violate the ceasefire agreement with multiple attacks on the Gaza Strip. In the middle of its statements, Hamas urged the international community, the United Nations, and all parties involved to take measures to stop the genocide by Israel. In this regard, the Gaza Civil Defense reported that more than 100 people were killed in Gaza due to the Israeli bombardment after the announcement of the ceasefire. Since October 7, 2023, over 46,700 Palestinians have been killed and more than 110,200 injured. Israel's food cabinet approved on Friday a Gaza ceasefire deal after the country's security cabinet signed off the deal earlier. The agreement will stop the 15-month Israeli genocide war in the Gaza Strip and the release of hundreds of prisoners and hostages between the two signatory parties. The process of release will start on Sunday with the Israeli prisoners and will continue weeks later with the Palestinian hostages in Israeli jails. The path has drawn fierce resistance from Netanyahu's far-right coalition partners who hope the peace could stabilize his government. Israeli strikes have killed thousands of Palestinians since the deal was announced, while the Zionist military has confirmed it had hit about 50 targets across Gaza over the past day.
The axis of resistance won because its demands and conditions were completely fulfilled, but Israel's were not. That's why I believe that the axis of resistance won. Resistance is getting stronger because both the people of Gaza and Lebanon have witnessed the triumph of Gaza under difficult conditions, which made them stronger.
Hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators gathering from the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, the Indonesian capital, to celebrate the ceasefire deal in Gaza.
We are here to celebrate the victory of our brothers and sisters in Gaza because of the ceasefire deal struck by Qatar, the United States, and Egypt. Of course, this makes our brothers and sisters in Gaza, Palestine, happy and joyful because part of the deal is the release of some Palestinian prisoners. Because of this ceasefire too, the humanitarian aid can enter Gaza and is no longer stuck in Rafah, Egypt.
In this context, hundreds of people rally in Canada in front of the Israeli consulate to call an end to the genocidal war in Gaza. The demonstration comes in the final details of the Gaza ceasefire that has used release agreement nearing completion. Demonstrators chanting slogans such as "We are all Palestinians and Palestinians will live forever." Moreover, they create placards reading "Gaza resists" and "Free Palestine." To take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian met Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow on Friday to sign a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement between the two countries. After bilateral talks, the leaders signed a 20-year treaty that will strengthen bonds between these countries in fields such as economy, energy, culture, and trade. The document aims to create conditions for stable and sustainable development. The Russian president said that the aim was to create conditions for less bureaucracy, more action. Pakistan's, for her part, said that the treaty had been drawn up to the basis of the interests of both countries and points out that Moscow and Tehran were capable of ensuring their security independently and develop in cooperation without recurring to other countries.
Of our cooperation, but we will also sign a big foundational treaty between Russia and Iran on comprehensive strategic partnership. We continue to work on our large-scale projects, including the projects in nuclear power generation. In the field of energy, we also have other possible projects. In the field of logistics, we have good prospects. And I'm also glad to note, to mention our cooperation in the field of humanitarian ties. Tourist exchanges are...
This comprehensive strategic plan, which has been studied for years, will be signed today, and in all fields of security, economic, cultural, and commercial, we will be able to increase relations and strengthen these relations with each other.
A special court in Pakistan sentenced former Prime Minister Imran Khan to 14 years in prison on Friday after being accused of receiving lands as a bribe during his term in office. At the same ground, Bursha Bibi, Khan's wife, was also sentenced to 7 years. The case involved a charitable trust set up by Khan and his wife in 2018 when he was still at the helm of government, in which they allegedly obtained lands worth $24 million as a bribe from real estate tycoon Malik Rais Hussain. The verdict came amid negotiations between the Pakistan government and Khan's opposition, Pakistan's third in Safed party, after months of intensified political turmoil and street protests. The Chinese government reported on Friday that its domestic economy brought in at an annual rate of 5% in 2024. Official data revealed that the Chinese economy grew 5.4% from October to December 2024, boosted by strong exports and stimulus measures. Kenny, Commissioner of the National Strategic Bureau, highlighted that through gradual policies pursued and social confidence strengthened, the economy has recovered remarkably. Overall, exports accelerate as businesses and customers rush to avoid possible tariff rises that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump might impose on Chinese goods once he takes office.
Preliminary estimates show that annual gross domestic product, GDP, was 134.9 trillion yuan, an upsurge of 5% over the previous year at constant prices.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch on interviews, sub-stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. We'll find out short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Heavy rains in the southern Brazilian state of Santa Catarina have caused the closure of major roads, flooding in several cities, and landslides. The rainfall has exceeded 100 millimeters in a few hours in localities such as Florianópolis and Camboriú, and has had a significant impact on the region, affecting both residents and tourists. In Itapema, entire neighborhoods were underwater, prompting authorities to issue warnings to the population to take extreme precautions. Thousands of tourists in vacations in southern Brazil, mostly from Argentina, have been affected by the adverse weather conditions, with the rains complicating travels, and access to the beach is one of the region's main attractions. On a beach at La Teste near the Acaranche, the western France, almost a dozen western Christmas trees have become widespread to keep the ocean at bay.
The idea is to make them aware of the impact of treading, so that they understand that because people haven't respected the paths and so on that are provided for people, and because they haven't been respected, this creates these openings in the dune. And these openings mean that with the action of the wind, we have issues that are covered by sand. And if they, through their actions, can contribute to repairing all that, and if they understand that it shouldn't be done, we've achieved our objective. The purpose of these fir trees is to trap sand. In fact, if you look at the profile of the beach here, you can see that it's very wide. And when the wind pushes this sand towards the dune, the idea is that it will be blocked by these fir trees. We really use them as windbreaks. We're going to try and cover them with sand to try and fill in the depression we can see behind us and prevent the sand from blowing back up and covering the road and the car park just behind.
In the northeastern Colombian region of Catatumbo, at least 3 people have been killed in clashes between the National Liberation Army and the dissident factionaries of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC. According to the Osman's office, in addition to the deaths, there are at least thousands wounded. Moreover, the entity expressed its regret for the situation of the region that has resulted in unaccompanied children or several disabled people living in the area unable to flee, as well as forced displacements. It also called for an end to attacks against civilians and asked the ELN to respect international humanitarian law. Meanwhile, the ELN has reportedly begun fighting against the Structure 33 at the dissident faction of the now extinct FARC. In Venezuela, the Special Commission for the Revision of the Electoral Laws and Regulations of the National Assembly, together with the National Electoral Council, evaluated the proposal of the political parties and organizations for the electoral schedule 2025. The entities evaluated the proposal to define the dates, processes, and scenarios of re-elections to be held in 2025. According to the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, there will be around 10 joint elections in 2025, including those of mayors, governors, legislative and municipal councils, as well as parliamentary and also constitutional reform. Rodriguez points out that the election will be ruled by the constitutional-based National Electoral Council and not by the decision of any other national or international body.
Según esta Constitución, el único órgano que está en condiciones de
According to this constitution, the only body that has the power to organize, summon, count the votes, proclaim elected candidates, and give them the credential as elected officials, is the electoral power, the National Electoral Council, its 5 principal members and 10 alternates, as well as its 3 subordinate bodies. There is no other national entity, much less an extraterritorial one, that has the power to make decisions in electoral matters. That is why we have come here with proposals from the political parties.
Likewise, the President of the National Assembly provided details of the electoral process as scheduled for the year 2025.
En el año 2025 deben realizarse al menos 9 elecciones.
At least 9 elections must be held in the year 2025, and we will probably have to hold 10 elections this year. The 6 consultations that in an exceptional way, as proposed by President Nicolas Maduro, allow the people from the communities, from the neighborhood, from their residents, from the small towns, from the villages, to choose which are the projects that correspond to the needs of their community in particular, or that have more importance for them. Therefore, 4 consultations will be held on these projects, and the consultation specifically addressed to the youth and the cultural sector, 6 consultations of similar characteristics to the elections of communal justices of the peace that took place last December 15, 2024.
10 Latin American countries concluded in Mexico City on Friday a summit meeting on migration in the face of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's threat of mass deportation. The summit, which was called Meeting on Human Mobility along the northern road of the continent towards an orderly, safe, regular, responsible, and humane management, began on Thursday and was attended by the foreign minister of Belize, Brazil, Colombia, Cuba, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras, Mexico, and Venezuela. During a press conference held on Friday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum provided details of the meeting and said its objective was to look for a joint strategy to avoid migration and to attend to the migrants that will be deported from the U.S.
We initiated a dialogue to strengthen a strategy, on the one hand, to avoid migration through the cooperation for development, which is the essence of our strategy. Most people don't migrate for pleasure but out of necessity, and we insist on that with the government of the United States and in our cooperation contacts with all the governments of Central and South America, so that people can be assisted in their place of origin and have access to jobs, so that they can have access to a safe and dignified life, fair in their places of origin to avoid migration, and at the same time, to coordinate and be in communication in relation to any strategy proposed by the government of President Trump. First of all, we will always defend the Mexicans who are in the United States, and one of our priorities in our dialogues, after President Trump takes office, will be the defense of our nationals in the United States and showing them that statistics show how important the Mexicans are for the economy of that country. We have already worked out a strategy in case of massive deportations, but first let's wait and see what the United States government does.
We have come to the end of this brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook and X and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.